Hey everyone, welcome back to Beekeeping with Natalie, or welcome to if you're new. Today's video that I think a lot of people have actually been waiting to see, and it's going to be the update video on that open air hive that we just did. So I just posted a video on it. If you want to go check it out, it just basically shows the whole process of taking it home and everything. So we got back late that night. It was dark outside, and then it actually was chaos because I told my dad, I was like, do you want to put a veil on? He's like, no, it's fine. He got lit up like I don't know how many times, but it was funny to me. Anyway, what we did though is we basically opened up that vacuum so that like right up here at the entrance so that they could go in there, and they eventually started to go in. I came back the next day and I think there was still a few in the vacuum on like some frames that we had in there, so I went ahead and shook those over into the box. But today I'm just going to check to see how they're doing. Now I'm going to be completely honest with everybody and open. I don't know, like it's just hard to know if we got the queen if you don't see her while you're actually doing all of it. But I like to think we did, but I really don't know, just because. So I'm excited to see kind of how these rubber bands worked out too. But I think they might have made a new queen. I'm not really sure, but I believe hopefully there is a queen laying in here. I did see one the other day. So we're just going to check it out today and see how they're looking. I've got a nicer smoker today actually. I stole my dad's because didn't want to look for mine. And lately mine's just not, it's on the struggle bus. It's been through it. And I'm thinking about it might be time to retire it, but I don't know. I have been saving up stickers just to, if I have to replace it, then I will. But anyways, I'm going to take this feeder out. So this time of year, we're going to do a lot of feeding. That's pretty much all we're doing right now. I posted a video on that recently, doing pollen sub, syrup. We're not doing 2-to-1, it's just 1-to-1 for right now because it's still really warm outside. There's still a little something out there. I think they've been on the goldenrod a little bit, but not a whole lot. So I'm going to feed them today because they didn't really start from scratch, but they kind of did, just because we weren't able to save that much. That's the only thing about these open air hives. We probably did it a little bit later in the year than we should have. I think it would have been better to do it earlier, but we never got the chance to get around to it, so it is what it is. But there's still a decent amount of bees in here, so I just want to check to see what they're kind of looking like, and depending on how much food they have in here, I'll kind of figure out what I want to feed. But this is full of food, it looks like, and then this is that frame. So we used some rubber bands to basically, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 frames that they didn't have to completely start from scratch that we did bring from the open air hive. And what you'll see is they basically attach it to the sides here. So it's kind of like a foundationless frame now. Sometimes they won't finish it out completely, but they might, maybe next year or something. So this looks good. This is just what we took basically. They still have a few drones in here. This is actually full of pollen, which is really good. I haven't seen very many drones, so that's kind of surprising. But so this is another rubber band. So this is fairly dry. There's not a whole lot of food in here. But as you can see, they're just starting to seal it so that it's not going to fall out. So that's kind of to show you how those rubber bands worked. I think they did pretty good actually. Now one of the things we had to kind of pay attention to though is if that wax was kind of bent a little bit and it was more like it would have like stuck out of the frame, we didn't end up saving it. That's why we only ended up getting 5 of those frames, because most of the wax was just like bent a little bit that it wouldn't have worked. If you want it to be like nice and flat, it looks pretty dry, so I will feed today. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to feed. I haven't seen any eggs yet, but if they did happen to make a queen, and like I said, I did see her the other day, it might take her a little bit to start laying. There's not a ton of bees in here. Hopefully, I might end up giving them like a frame of brood just to kind of get them going a little bit. So sometimes, like I've told people this before, sometimes you just need to give them a little bit something, like whether that's food or like a frame of brood. I think for this one it's probably going to be a frame of brood, just to kind of get them going again and give them a little bit of a boost. So I'll probably be doing that here soon. This is full of pollen also. I'm going to go ahead and put a pollen patty on today though. Okay, there's a small patch of eggs up in here. So it looks like you can also, so this is where I think they probably made a queen. So you can see here, there's a bunch of queen cells that used to be there. And you can also tell that she went and ate it out through the side here and killed it. So at some point there was a queen. I'm guessing there is because there are eggs in here and it doesn't look like a laying worker. Looks like there might be eggs on both sides. So that's good. There's at least a queen in here. For some reason, I just haven't been able to find it on camera, but might go through these ones. Yeah, I'm definitely going to give them a frame of brood just to kind of get them going again. But I did find eggs, so let's go ahead and just start feeding them. Now, talking about feeding here, it's a weird time of year. The weather's nice, so you can do like frame feeding because a lot of people don't like them. I don't have a problem with them. I think they work well if you do it at the right time of the year. Like this time of year is usually a good time to do it because one, it's robbing season, and this is going to be inside the hive, so it's not going to get attention to other bees because it's sitting out in the front or on top of the hive, whatever it is. It's inside the hive where they can take care of it, and it's also warm, so it's not going to, like the season right now, it's nice and hot outside, so it's not going to get cold, and they can take care of it, and they usually won't drown in it. It's also one of the things that you just have to put some sticks in there, and then they're usually good to go. I'm actually not going to do frame feeding today because I wanted to just show this on video, and this is also just one of my favorite ways to feed is Ziplocs. So this is another way for kind of this time of year, because if it's like really, our robbing season is really bad right now. If we have any type of spilling or whatever it is with syrup, they're going to end up going to it immediately. So you have to be really careful when you're filling up these frame feeders also, because if anything, if just a little bit falls through those frames and then starts going out through the entrance there, that's going to attract other bees, and then they're going to have all this robbing right up front there. So anyway, we try not to spill too much around this time of year and just be careful about that. But another thing, buckets are okay this time of year, but also I'll notice that they'll end up creating like a little ring around it, and they'll try to rob it through the top there. So it's just, robbing season's bad right now. But these Ziplocs here, this is just a quart, I believe, and fill it up about halfway, and then you can lay it on top here. Now, typically you'll want to use some type of feeder shim. I do have one here that I might use, but our lids have a little bit of space in between from where those frames are going to be. I don't know. Let me see if it's going to touch. It might touch it a little bit here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that feeder shim on just so it gives them plenty of space to get to it. And also, if you don't have any feeder shims but you want to make some or whatever it is, you can take like an old super that maybe the top part's cracking but the bottom's good, and just basically cut it in half, and then you have a new feeder shim. Because you don't want to give them too much space, but you can use just an empty like super if it's a medium or a shallow. Anywho, okay, so then you can see there's a lot of air in here, but that doesn't really matter because the second you make this slit, it's gonna vacuum to it. So I'll show you how big that slit is. I'm gonna make it right here in the middle. So it's just a razor blade. So then the second that they get on top of it, it's gonna basically, did I cut it? I don't know, I don't think I did. There we go. So then it just vacuums to it basically, and then the second they touch it, a little bit of that syrup's going to come up, and then they can put their tongue down into that slit right there, and that's how they'll feed off of it. So it usually takes them only a couple seconds to end up getting to it actually. And then I'm going to go ahead and give them a pollen patty here. I'm just going to do half because it is beetle season and they've been really bad this year. I did see a few in here and I don't want to attract that, so, or encourage it basically. So I'm just going to cut this in half and then give them half of it. And there's also not a whole lot of bees in here, so I don't want to give them too much that they can't handle. But this should help them kind of boost them up a little bit. This time of year we're really feeding a lot just because it's that time of year that they really have to build up and get strong, especially with those single broods that we had. So I'm just going to make sure I give that to them and probably a few others today. And then here's just a feeder shim. You got to ignore the yard. It's really bad right now. We had a really crazy season, and just getting to cleaning everything, you just end up getting into a... All right, so here's this girl actually. Yeah, she's already feeding off of it. Might be hard to see, but she's already getting to it. So that just shows you how it works basically. It works really well. I've never had any problems with spilling. I've never had it drip out or anything. Just as long as your hive is pretty level, then you're usually good. But yeah, the yard is a mess, but you just kind of get into the middle of something and then you start kind of pulling boxes off, then you forget about it and you move on to the next hive, and then before you know it, you have pro nukes everywhere and supers and everything. So we're gonna get to that soon. That's more of a winter job, which is what we say every year, but we usually get to it. Anyway, that's just how that feeder shim works. I did think about maybe putting 2 Ziplocs on, or instead of doing 2 of these, you can just do a gallon-sized Ziploc, which would be the same thing as like a bucket. But I don't think they need that, so I'm gonna go ahead and just leave the 1 on there. And then I'll come back and probably tomorrow or the next 2 days and check to see if they're taking it. If they are, I'll come back and put another 1 on. And I think that's about it. So that's pretty much all we're doing this time of year. That's the update on this open air hive. I'm probably gonna give them a boost of something here just to get them going a little bit, or I might do maybe a double screen on them, whatever it is, just to get them through winter. And that's kind of the update. I didn't try too hard to find the queen, probably should have, but that's all right. But I think that's about it. So thanks for watching today's video. Follow along for more bee adventures and be here next time on Beekeeping with Natalie.